Hey, everybody, and welcome to Adapter Parish, episode 109 I Know What You Did Last Summer. But before we get into it, let me tell you about our next episode. So, recently, we've spoken about both Les Miserables and Into the Woods, and if it's taught us anything, it's that we need to talk about musicals more. It hasn't taught us that we love musicals, we already knew that, but we're going to be making a conscious effort to do more musicals on the show, and to that end, in our next episode, we're taking a look at Hairspray. We'll be discussing the original 1988 John Waters movie, the 2002 stage musical, the 2007 movie musical, and more. That'll be out in 2 weeks on Tuesday, February 1st. If you have any comments, questions, or corrections about today's episode or any others that you'd like to hear on the show, remember to email adapterparishcast@gmail.com. If you enjoy the show, we'd love it if you would share that with the world by leaving a rating and review wherever you listen to podcasts. We're also on Patreon at patreon.com/adaptcast. We've got a patron-only community and our bi-weekly bonus show, Adapter Parish Plus, with episodes releasing every Tuesday between episodes of this show. We hope you check it out. Show notes from this and all other episodes can be found at adapterparishcast.com. And with that, on with the show, Adapter Parish, episode 109, I Know What You Did Last Summer. Hello and welcome to Adapter Parish, a podcast about adaptation. I'm Jeremy Latour.
I'm Ari Lipshaw, and today we are going to be talking about the teen classic, I Know What You Did Last Summer.
I'm struggling. I was kind of struggling to figure out why we were doing this now. Because, it's not summer. It's not Halloween.
We're not teens.
There's really, there was no reason for it other than, it seemed fun. It seemed like it would be fun.
It seemed like it would be short.
Can I spoil something?
Yes.
I kind of didn't love any of these things.
Yeah, it is unfortunate when that happens.
Get it out of the way. This is one of those ones where they're all kind of a bummer in their own way.
We had a little bit of a confusing start to this one.
I'm so excited to talk about this.
We went to read the book, and I went, wait a second. I'm so confused. The movie came out in 1997. So clearly the book was written before the movie. And I was fairly sure it was written a good long time before the movie. And yet the book I was reading, I was in chapter 1 or chapter 2, and it was talking about a GPS, and then it was talking about texting. And I said, something is not right. Sure enough, we were reading the updated text that was updated in 2000 or something.
2010.
2010.
Originally published 1973. There was a revised edition in 2010.
And so I said, this is bullshit because I guess we're just jumping right into it. It did the thing that these types of things sometimes do where you sort of vaguely update the settings. So you have texting and you have, as I say, GPSs and things like this, but you don't update the plot. So the fact that they have texting isn't really referred to when it would be crucial to the plot. And also, more importantly, perhaps, they didn't update any of the sort of societal mores, shall we say?
Everyone sounds like our parents.
Yeah.
It's like in Back to the Future. It's like going back and finding your parents in the 50s or the 60s.
Yeah.
And so everything is the 50s or the 60s, but then they just say, oh, I have a cell phone too.
Yeah. So I got to about chapter 2. I said, F this. I want to find the original version. So I went to, it was difficult to find, but I did go to archive.org, created an archive.org library card, using which I was able to check out the original scan of the 1973 book for 1 hour at a time, and was able to read the original scan of the original text of the original book, whereas Jeremy plowed ahead and read the updated 2010 edition. So I think perhaps for the first time in Adapter Parish history, we actually read 2 very different editions of the same book. So if there's any confusion in our conversation, it's because we actually did not read the same book.
I am willing to guess that there actually isn't going to be a lot of confusion.
Yeah.
Because the thing that's so beautiful about the updated edition is that the new technology, as you say, it doesn't factor into the plot even a little.
Even a little.
Because everyone has conveniently misplaced their cell phone, or their cell phones are dead. There's every reason why people wouldn't have their cell phones.
Yeah.
Can I read an example?
Please do.
One of the main characters is going back to his frat, When he entered his room, he found a card game in progress. A table had been hauled in from the living room, and 4 guys were seated around it. Lou Wheeler, his roommate, was dealing and paused long enough to greet him. "Hey, Cox, where have you been? Your future star's been trying to get a hold of you." That's his girlfriend, Helen. "Oh?" Barry shoved the door closed and sat down on the edge of his bed. "I've been doing the duty call on the folks, trying to get them to come through with some bread for the summer. And my cell is dead." Every one of these things is not like the other.
Oh boy. Oh boy. Now, does the new edition have the cool swingers apartment? Because that was my favorite part.
Oh, the 4 seasons?
Yeah, the 4
it's
seasons.
still there.
Yeah, just exactly the same.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's not like not like anything anyone would do now, but yeah, it's there.
Amazing.
It's all there. So like little things were updated. So for example, something they keep talking about on the college campus is big protest. Now I'm curious to know, in 1973, what were all the students protesting?
They were protesting the war.
Which war?
I think the Vietnam War.
Yeah, the Vietnam War. Do you know what they're protesting in the updated version?
The Iraq War?
Nope. Memorial Day.
They were protesting Memorial Day?
Protesting Memorial Day.
For why?
The book doesn't get into it. Because if it's the Vietnam War, you can just kind of present it and say, here's why everyone's protesting, because the Vietnam War is like, okay, yeah, I get that. There are a lot of people who are protesting the Vietnam War. But they're like, no, they're just protesting Memorial Day. I just want to say, too, like, if either of us are a little loopy right now, I feel like we've both been burning the candle at both ends a bit.
Yeah.
I just started a new show.
I don't know what possessed you. I don't understand why you thought now was the time.
I don't. Well, now is because it was the year
time
mattered.
sensitive,
It was
yeah.
it was slightly time sensitive. Anyway, you can read about it in the show notes. I'm very happy with it. I'm very excited it's happening. But I also am, as I say, burning the candle at both ends a little bit. So
Let's take it
let's
back.
talk about this whole, because I feel like a lot of people. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to hazard that a lot of people who have experience with "I Know What You Did Last Summer" in its grander sense is just the story. I would say probably more people saw the 97 movie than read the book. And I would say more people saw the movie and read the book than like watched the new show.
I can't speak for anyone. I've done no research. I have no data.
I would even say I do apologize to the showrunners and creators and stars of Amazon's "I Know What You Did Last Summer," because in the previous episode when I announced it, I think I referred to it as being a miniseries
Mhm.
because I was like positive it was not like a show that was going to be picked up for multiple seasons.
It was supposed to be.
Turned out when I said it, it was supposed to be, and then it got canceled a week ago.
We just learned that there will be no season 2.
So it was actually kind of beautiful to watch it,
Yeah.
knowing that there would never be any more with these characters.
Yeah.
So
Let's talk about the book.
1973 novel written by Lois Duncan, as you say. Do you want to go through the plot a little bit?
Yeah, but I just want to say real quick, like Lois Duncan, an extremely prolific teen novelist.
Yeah.
Like anything that you can think of that was a teen book from like the 70s to the 90s, probably written by Lois Duncan.
Mhm. And I think she updated the book in 2010 as well, because she didn't die until 2016.
Mm-hmm.
So she was the one who went through and said, like, when can I say that their cell is
Yeah,
dead?
that tracks because it does sound like the references to technology were added by a very old person.
I don't know whether to feel bad that I read the updated one or feel bad for you that you didn't.
Yeah. At least the one I read was consistent.
The one that I read was amazing.
Yeah.
Like it made the book more entertaining. I'm not gonna lie, I did not like this book.
Okay.
This was a book that felt like it was written by a cynical adult for dumb teenagers.
All right.
I'm not saying the people who like it are dumb. I'm saying the author thinks you are.
So did you have some background on this this classic novel?
Just something kind of blew my mind, and we're kind of giving away everything, and obviously we're gonna spoil all this stuff. Everything depends on twists and turns and reveals. And
So I know we don't have a physical copy. Do we have a back of the book, a quick synopsis we can read out here?
I love it. It's so short.
Okay, go for it.
Last summer, 4 terrified friends made a desperate pact to conceal a shocking secret. But now, someone has learned the truth and is determined to get even. The horror is starting again. There is an unknown Avenger out there who is stalking them in a deadly game. Will he stop at terror, or is he out for revenge?
Okay.
That's fine.
That's fine.
That's fine.
That's fine. Okay. Should we do the plot?
Yeah, I would like you to do the plot, please. Thank you.
Okay. Julie, is a senior in high school. She's very serious. She's very studious. She's just learned that she's been accepted to Smith. She's very excited because she gets to get out of this godforsaken town and go to a good Eastern college, as her mother calls it. And just as she's celebrating this fact, and her mom is reflecting on the fact that, wow, this past year you've really changed. Your personality is different. Something's not the same, but good for you to buckle down and study and take life seriously. On the very same day she receives her acceptance notice to Smith, she also receives a strange note. And the note is handwritten and it's not signed. And in strange block writing, it says, I know what you did last summer.
I loved the first chapter of this book.
Yes.
Nothing else that happened after the first chapter of this book in the book or the movie or the show, none of it delighted me as much as this did. This was like a perfect little beautiful short story because it ends with mystery and it is beautiful, beautifully written. I loved it. Clearly the note is the reason that this whole story exists.
Yeah.
And then more stuff happened and everything got ruined.
Yeah, I will also just say this is the part this is before we even get into the technology that I started to get confused because, as I say, I saw that I was reading something that was published in 2010 and there was this backstory about how Julie's dad was dead and her mom used to teach home ec part-time before she married and now she's a substitute but is thinking about maybe going back to work again full-time. It's like, where do these people get their money? What is happening? She teaches home ec? What are you talking about?
Part-time.
As I say, that's sort of societal structures.
I mean, there might be a bunch of other stuff going on with the mom where she gets her money that we don't know about because I don't know if you remember this, but the mom is also psychic.
Yes. And the funny thing was, even though Sarah Michelle Gellar does not play this role in the movie, all I could really picture was like sad Buffy and her mom.
Yeah.
In this whole scene. She's keeping a deep dark secret from that mom.
Yet another thing we'll get to in a little bit.
Yes. So she gets the note, I know what you did last summer. She runs to see her friend Helen. Who, they've grown apart in the last year or so, in this last year, because Helen has actually dropped out of school to go to work for the television station and become a local celebrity because she won like a pageant, but her family's poor. So, not high society people like some of their other friends. And she lives in a real cool apartment building with all the singles. And they have pool parties every day and rub suntan lotion on themselves. Got her own apartment. She's got her own car. She's only 18. She's beautiful. She's doing great. So it turns out 1 year before, on high school graduation night, they and their two boyfriends, Ray and Barry, Barry's the worst, they were out partying.
They all suck.
They were all a little bit drunk. They were all a little bit stoned. Barry was driving. They were driving down too fast down a mountain road. They hit something. And it turned out it was a little boy on a bicycle. And he was killed instantly.
Well, they don't know because they didn't go back.
They didn't stop. Yeah. This is the thing. The book is actually different from both the movie and the show. The movie and the show, they get way more into like covering up the body. In this, basically, their crime is just they didn't go back. Like they saw it was a boy. They thought maybe he was hurt. They found a payphone because obviously this is 1973.
But this was where everything diverged.
Yeah,
because they did make a call from their cell phone.
Yes, right.
And you were like, wait, the fuck?
What? So they did call the police and alert them, but they didn't stop. They didn't stop and they didn't go back. And Barry was like, we have to swear that we'll never say that it was us because it's going to ruin all of our lives. And we're making this pact and we killed this kid, but like no one will ever find out, blah, 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 blah.
Because we've made a pact.
Because we made a pact. The pact is very important. So now we're back to the present day. Barry's been in college for 1 year and he's a big man on campus. He plays on the football team. And Ray has kind of like gone off somewhere and disappeared, and we later find out he's been working on like a fishing boat. So Ray was Julie's boyfriend, but they kind of broke up after all this happened, and Barry was Helen's boyfriend, and they're still kind of dating, but not really because he feels that having this beautiful successful girlfriend is really really cramping his style and really tying him down. Like it tends to do.
And Julie's seeing someone new, right?
And Julie's seeing this guy named Bud. He's older. He's been in the war, you know.
He's in Iraq.
Oh, I see. In your version. No. In mine, he was in Nam. Very specifically.
No.
Yes. No, he was in Nam.
No, he was in Iraq.
Yeah. No, they talk about how he was in Nam.
Regardless of where the shit was, he was in the shit.
He was in the shit.
But everything about Bud he just seems like a nice guy.
Just a nice older guy.
Don't know too much about him.
Julie's mom thinks he's good for her.
Yep.
Like he's kind of calmed her down a little bit. She used to be frivolous cheerleader. Now she's serious girl.
There's a lot of Buffy in her, isn't there?
Yeah, there is. And she gets this note and she's like, what is it? And Barry's like, well, you don't even know is about the thing that we did. It could be anything that you did last summer. Like you did lots of stuff. What?
We basically just have chapters upon chapters of them trying to convince themselves that this is not what's happening.
Yeah. And then Barry gets shot.
Killed?
Only paralyzed.
Only almost paralyzed.
Only merely paralyzed.
Only somewhat paralyzed.
Only mostly paralyzed. So Barry's shot. He's in the hospital. So now everyone's trying to find out who shot Barry. And they're going on this quest to find out who's trying to murder. Like, no one actually gets murdered because Helen lives, right? And Ray lives. And Barry's shot but kind of deserved it. And
survives.
And so they find out a bunch of information about this little boy that died. And it turns out...
Well, they all know about David Gregg. And they've all read the story. And it turns out one of the things that happened, Julie went to his funeral. And she didn't tell anybody about it. And, like, brought flowers to the funeral.
Yeah.
Ridiculous. And so she convinces Ray, hey, we're going to go visit his house.
Yeah.
We're going to see. And he's like, what? You're crazy. What are we're going to do that? Or he convinces her. I don't even remember.
They meet the sister.
But they go through like a thing where the conversation is basically, well, if they're the ones who are trying to kill us, then they'll shoot us when we get there.
Yeah.
But if they don't, then we know they're not the people who are trying to kill us.
So perfect logic.
So they go and they meet Megan, who's
great.
David's older sister. She's real nice, and she's like, "Oh, visitors! I never get visitors. This is really sweet. Hey, I'm painting the house. You want to come hang out with me a little bit?
Yeah.
You know, things have been kind of lonely around here. My mom was institutionalized, and my dad, because she's so depressed because my brother died last summer. I don't know if you heard about this. It was a hit and run. And my dad is spending time with her. And it's just, it's really, it pretty much destroyed my entire family. But I still have a pretty rosy outlook on life. And you both seem nice and unrelated.
And then they're leaving. This is my favorite part. I think this was the line that you quoted. And Ray's like, didn't you notice? She said she's living there alone. But like, she was putting the laundry up on the line. And it was like a bunch of men's shirts. And Julie's like, yeah, but like some girls wear their dad's shirts, just for like hanging around the house. Of course I don't because my dad's dead.
No one talks like anybody. Here's the thing. I feel like there's so many books and movies where people don't talk the way that people actually talk.
Yeah.
But there's like two directions you can go with that. You can go in the direction of like, maybe people are much more erudite and kids are more precocious and everyone speaks, in a more elevated fashion. But then there's the way that nobody talks where people are just completely clear about everything they're saying and there's no affect to anything.
Yeah.
And that's the part that feels like children's literature to me.
Yeah.
That's the part that feels like these dumb kids will think this is great.
So anyway, it turns out that Helen is in danger. Helen almost is murdered by someone that tries to do a murder on her in her apartment.
You're skipping over some stuff because
I'm sorry.
they've met different people because Julie has this new guy in her life, Bud, and Helen's starting to get a new guy in her life as well, even though she's in love with Barry.
Right, but this guy just moved across the hall from her in the singles building.
Yeah, and this is Collie. This is Collingsworth Wilson.
Yes.
Who goes by Collie because of course he does.
And he's the one that takes her to the hospital when they find out that Barry is shot.
Yeah.
And Barry's mom, she wants nothing to do with Helen. Helen's a low-class girl. Dropped out of high school.
I feel like this is an important time for me to do a couple of readings. So let's make one thing clear. Collie is a fucking asshole.
Yeah.
He's a terrible person. So Barry gets shot, and Helen has been crying a lot, and Collie had met her out by the pool. He says to her, "Hey," Collie said, "remember me, your friend by the pool?" He sat down beside her and put his hands on her shoulders. "Look, you'd better cut this out, the crying. It's not getting you anywhere. You want to ride to the hospital?" Helen nodded, choking down the sobs. "Then get a hold of yourself. Go wash your face or something. You can't go anywhere looking like this. I'll be waiting for you out in the lobby." He went out into the front room, and a few moments later, Helen came out to meet him. She had obeyed his command. Her face was clean, and she had brushed her hair. Collie's a fucking asshole.
That's the 2010 version, by the way. It's the same in the 1973 one.
Like, it's exactly the same. It's ridiculous. Lois Duncan seems to have an opinion about what women look like after they've been crying.
Yeah.
So she's talking to Collie about Barry, and they're talking about her like having a career. She thinks he wants to have a very traditional kind of thing where she doesn't have a career. And she says to Collie, he thinks I'd mind. It's old-fashioned of him, isn't it? Because old-fashioned in 1973 meant like the 50s.
Yeah.
Yeah, because old-fashioned in 2010 means like
the 70s.
The 80s or the 90s. But nice. He thinks it wouldn't be right to marry somebody and have her work. He's just so marvelous. When I first met him, it was 2 years ago. He picked me up one day when I was walking home from school. He said I was pretty. He was right, Collie said. And then Lois Duncan goes on to say, at the moment, the statement was not true, but this he discounted.
This is 2010 version, by the way.
That's not even Collie being an asshole. That's Lois Duncan being
Yeah.
an asshole. And we haven't even talked about Elsa.
Oh
Like,
yeah, her hag sister.
Hag, fat, stupid, pig, hag,
Mean.
sister. Terrible. Oh my God. Because if this book teaches you anything, it's that what you look like on the outside says everything about what you're like on the inside.
Yeah, Elsa's the red herring. There's a thought that perhaps Elsa was trying to do the murders.
Yeah, there's can we talk about Elsa for a second? So this is, I believe, a flashback to when Ray met Elsa for the first time. And he says, glad to meet you, Elsa, Ray said politely, privately deciding just the opposite. He had seldom been introduced to anyone whose appearance made her less pleasing to meet. It seemed incredible on looking at her that this dumpy, sullen-faced girl could be closely related to someone as attractive as Helen. Elsa's fucking ugly, am I right?
Yeah.
And then later in the book, she's talking to Helen. She says, oh, don't worry about me, Elsa said. I was just getting ready to leave anyway. She spread her legs apart, shifted her weight forward, and got heavily to her feet.
Oh,
Like,
Jesus.
who describes a person this way? This is terrible.
Awful.
It's not even about how she acts.
Yeah.
It's somewhat about how she acts, but it's mostly about how she's just a dumpy fat girl.
Yeah. So anyway, can I do the big plot twist?
Yeah, of course you can do the big plot twist.
Big plot twist. Bud and Collie are the same person.
Mhm.
And that person is the third sibling in the Greg family, the older brother who's
Half-brother.
who's doing his revenge because he came back from the war and found out that his little brother was dead and his mom's in the asylum and his, the stepdad's all broken down, and he tracked Julie down from the flowers that she sent to the funeral.
Yeah, because it was like, so this girl brought flowers to the funeral. Who could have known?
Yeah.
Why would she have been there?
Yeah.
So he said, I went to the florist and I asked who she was, and they were like, well, I know she goes to, I think it's her. And he figured it out and he sent her the note, and then she immediately went to Helen's, and then Barry went there and he was like, I know, it's all of them. I figured the whole thing out.
Yeah.
It would be impressive if he wasn't like a wannabe killer.
Yeah. So
Because again, doesn't kill anybody.
Yeah, so he goes to her house and he tries to murder her, and she runs outside, and
This is after he tries to kill Helen.
after he
and
tries
she
to
gets
kill
away.
Helen, she gets away.
And at this point, as readers, we just think Collie's trying to kill Helen.
Yes.
And then Bud shows up. But it right before he shows up, isn't Julie thinking to herself? And she's like, man, it is funny that he wants to call Bud. But I guess Collingsworth is not really a name that
not
ends.
a name.
What?
And then we're like, no, don't let him in. And then Ray shows up, and it turns out that Ray was in love with Julie all along. They just couldn't be together because of the crazy experience that they had.
Wasn't he trying to get back with her the whole time?
Yeah, but
It's like he and Bud were competing.
they were competing, yeah. And it turns out Julie was in love with him, and Ray saves Julie from Bud, and they can all live happily ever after, I guess. Except,
Yeah, I mean,
do they need to be? I guess it was Barry who committed the crime. So, what are they going to do to Barry?
I
Right?
mean, what's who going to do to anybody?
I don't know.
I don't know that the cops are in. I
Are
guess
they-
they are.
They.
It doesn't. The book is not interested with these type of things. Can we please talk about Julie's psychic mom?
The
You
book-
finish what you're talking about, and I want to talk about her psychic mom.
I'm just saying the book ends with what is apparently a happy ending because they did catch the murderer before he manages to actually kill anyone, only paralyze one person and attempt to murder two other people. But nothing is really brought to closure about the fact that they did actually manslaughter a boy.
They did a manslaughter.
Yeah.
An accessory to Can you be
Yeah.
an accessory to manslaughter?
It's not good, but it seems like it's a happy ending. So the end.
I just feel like this book is trying to. It was so obvious that Collie was the bad guy.
Yeah.
So obvious, because there's a line earlier where Helen is complaining about Barry's mom being a bitch to her. And Collie, this after Barry gets shot. And Collie says to her, don't blame her too much. She wasn't all there last night. Women get like that when something happens to a kid. My own mom's that way.
There you go.
Why would you? What?
What?
Why would you say something like that? Why would you put something like that in the book? So immediately, as soon as he said that, I was like, oh, because this is not a red herring.
Yeah.
What's the opposite of a red herring?
I don't know.
What's
clue.
A clue. I guess it's an actual goddamn clue. It's just a clue he dropped right there. And it's just, and they I guess Barry figures out that Bud was the same person, that Bud was the brother, because when he hung out with Bud and Bud tried to intimidate him because he knew that Ray was still into Julie, he saw paint on his hand. He was like, oh, he's helping his sister paint the house.
It's the same color as the house. He's
Mhm.
got paint on him anyway. What I'm saying is, in 1997, and we can go back if there's more you want to say, but all I'm saying is when they went to make a movie out of this in 1997, they said, you know what? This is really cool, this idea of these Cool teens having a secret, something they did last summer. You know what this needs more of? So many more murders. It needs murders. So many more murders.
Oh, they kill. Wait, you're telling me they hit a kid?
Yeah.
And that kid, wait,
No.
dies?
No, not a kid.
No,
No.
they hit a man.
Adult man.
An adult man. He is not dead. He then becomes a slasher movie villain and kills most of them.
Yes. Wait, no, he is dead. It's the father-in-law that's killing everybody, remember? We just had to stop recording.
Yep, we're back.
For a number of minutes because it turned out that I was confused about the plot. And we had to look it up on Wikipedia. But I think I'm okay now. I was like 90% of the way there. I was just missing a vital component of the actual resolution to the plot.
For weeks now, you have been assuming that the person they hit in the movie
Yes.
was a different person
Yes.
than the person they hit.
It was confusing. And to my credit, they also thought in the course of the movie that it was the person that they hit.
You took their supposition to be
True. Yes, but it was not true.
Mhm.
Okay. Cool teens hit a man.
We're not done. We're not done talking about this book.
Okay.
I just feel like before we move on, I got to say three things really quickly. One, in terms of the updating of it, one of the things that happens after Barry gets shot is Helen calls the hospital,
Mhm.
and the person working at the hospital says that, oh, Barry Cox is resting comfortably. He had been removed from the recovery room and was now in room 414B. For the time being, he was allowed no visitors except for family. So HIPAA was enacted in 1996,
Yeah.
after this book was published.
Yeah.
So maybe this was a thing that could have happened in the book in 1973,
Yeah.
but certainly not in the book in 2010.
No.
And yet, here we are. Okay, I keep talking about the psychic mom. There's a whole thing before the big denouement where Collie Bud person comes to kill Julie, and her mom's like, man, I just feel like something really bad is going to happen. And we get this whole thing about all the times in her life that she's been psychic and knew that something bad was
She
happening.
like knew the house was going to catch on fire,
Uh-huh.
and like she's just kind of well known that like if she says I got one of my feelings, God help you, like
Mhm.
go and do the thing that she wants you to do because something's wrong.
And there's even this moment where she goes, I know that it doesn't, she says to herself, like, I know it doesn't always mean something. Like, there was that time last summer where I thought something is really wrong. But when I talked to Julie said that everything was fine.
There you go.
So what the book is telling us is she is actually psychic.
Yes.
So she knows something is going to happen that night. It turns out, yes, Bud is going to try to kill her daughter. All right, I want to talk about where Lois Duncan got the idea for this from. Now, I would have thought that the big idea is someone did a thing and someone sends them a letter that says, I know what you did, and you don't think anyone knows.
Mhm.
That, to me, feels like the big idea.
Yeah.
Apparently, Duncan got the idea for the book while she was making dinner, and her daughter Carrie was having a conversation with a friend in the kitchen. Carrie told her about a boy that interested her, and her friend was considering what to wear on her upcoming date. The two eventually found out that they were talking about the same boy. Duncan began to wonder what would happen if the boy had deliberately implanted himself in the lives of two girls he knew were friends, and if he built up a different personality to present to each of them. She later read a story about a hit and run in the newspaper, which led her to incorporate one into the novel.
Oh my God.
So, like, the hit and run, the whole, like,
That
I know
is
what you
wild.
did, is like,
that is wild.
the twist is everything.
Yeah.
The entire book is predicated on the idea she's like, oh no, Bud and Collie are the same person.
Spoiler, that is in
Yeah.
neither well, it is kind of in the TV show a little bit.
Not really,
a
'cause
little bit.
it's a reveal that only works in a book.
Yeah.
You can't do a reveal like that in a movie.
Yeah.
It literally does not work.
But there definitely is in the TV show the element of someone pretending to be someone that they're not.
There is that, but not even in the same way.
Yeah.
Because Collie's pretending to be two different people that
Right.
he's not, that don't exist.
Right. It's amazing.
He's not taking someone's identity.
No. Okay, we've skipped too far ahead.
This book is, I did not like it.
Yeah.
I didn't like
no,
it.
it was not good. All right. 1997. Cool kids doing crimes. You want to talk about this movie?
I do. It was directed by Jim Gillespie. It was written by Kevin Williamson. Some important things to talk about with that. He is the person who wrote Scream, which came out earlier. And boy, howdy, Scream is great.
Never seen it.
I saw it so many times. It is real good. Oh, boy, is it good. I don't have enough good things to say about Scream. It's genuinely great, and it's real fun.
Never seen it.
You should see it at some point. We should
That's-
watch it together.
that's fine.
It is very, very fun.
Someday when we have the time.
And, it really, so much of it was defined by, like, how funny the dialogue was, and none of the people talk the way people do, but it was all very elevated. The kind of thing I was talking about before. And it's this like whole thing that's a comment on slasher movies, and it was directed by Wes Craven. It was a horror pedigree too. It's a super fun movie. This was a script that Kevin Williamson wrote before he sold the script to Scream. And it's just a slasher movie.
Mm-hmm.
But it was produced after Scream came out. So it was clearly produced by people trying to capitalize on the success of Scream.
Sure.
They even got into a lawsuit with Miramax when they put on the poster from the creator of Scream.
Okay.
And Miramax was like, that's bullshit. Wes Craven directed Scream, and he had nothing to do with your movie. Even Kelvin Williamson saw it on a poster, and he told them, like, guys, you got to take that off the poster. That's ridiculous. So he went on to do a number of different things. I would say most importantly, he created Dawson's Creek,
Yeah.
which didn't premiere until 1998.
However, we did learn in this that he loves the name Dawson.
And being related to something, related to a body of water.
Loves it. What wasn't it?
Dawson's Beach.
Yeah. They go
Everyone-
to Dawson's Beach.
I would be so interested to look at everything else he did to see if there are other things.
yeah, like is it his mom's last name or something? You know, like, ugh, that's so weird.
Anyway, Kevin Williamson done a number of things. This is not Scream.
Yeah.
That being said, boy, was it popular.
Yeah.
It was. It did it.
What,
it did it for a lot of
what
people.
a 1997 cast.
Mhm.
What a cast we have here for oh my goodness. We've got your Jennifer Love Hewitt.
Mhm.
We've got your Sarah Michelle Gellar because you had to have 3 names in 1997.
Mhm.
We've got your Ryan Philippe, still looks great, God bless him.
Mhm.
And we've got your Freddie Prinze Jr. because you had to either have 3 names or be a junior in 1997 or be Ryan Philippe apparently. Married to Freddie Prinze Jr., married to Sarah Michelle
That's
Gellar.
what I was gonna say.
Still married.
I feel like everyone who saw this movie fell in love with Freddie Prinze Jr. and Sarah Michelle Gellar, and boy, did they fall in love with each other.
Cute couple. Although never like had a scene together, like ever.
They have 2 lines to each other.
Yeah.
Like, I think someone counted it, and like literally Helen is in a lot of scenes with Ray, but literally only ever says like 2 things directly to him.
Yeah.
It's like a Legolas and Frodo type situation.
Sure. So the way that I knew this was going to be different, because I remember saying to you, I'm not excited to watch I Know What You Did Last Summer because I don't want to see a boy die like on multiple occasions. And I was very excited to discover that when they hit the person, they ran over to him, and I was like, "Oh, okay, that's a man, so it's fine."
Yeah.
It's clearly they've changed the plot.
Got a little confused about which man it was.
Yeah.
But still an adult man.
Doesn't matter. But I think the biggest difference right off the bat that kind of leads into making way for the rest of the plot is that this thing that they do up there on the mountaintop is a much more intentional cover up than the book. Like, they hit this guy, they stop the car, they have a loud conversation on the street, they go and look at him, they're like, okay, we have to do something. They put him in the trunk, they drive him away. It's much less of a crime of omission. We just did a hit and run and we didn't call the cops, which is bad, right? That's very
Sure.
bad
Yeah,
to do,
yeah.
and that is a crime to do. But this is like, we hit a guy and we killed him and we put his body in the trunk and we drove a distance and we took him out of the trunk and we carried him and we threw his body in the water.
Wait a second. Ma'am, I'm trying to understand here. I am obviously the cop in this role play. I'm trying to understand here. So you put the man's body in your trunk, you're saying?
The friend did. Yeah, we did it.
Okay, so then you drove him. So what I remember is you drove him down to the dock,
Yes.
and then you took his body out,
Yeah.
and you threw him in the water, and nothing happened before you threw him in the water?
Well, he was alive.
He was alive. Okay.
He
did he say, "Hey, I'm alive.
No,
Don't throw me in the water"?
He grabbed my crown because I won the pageant, that night.
All right.
I'm the pretty girl, not my friend. My friend is the studious girl. I'm the pretty girl. I won the pageant. I was wearing my crown.
Okay.
So he grabbed it.
Did he try to hurt anybody?
Well, he did try to strangle my boyfriend because he grabbed my crown and I said, "Get my crown." So my boyfriend went down in the water to get it.
So after he attacked you,
Yeah.
you threw him in the water still?
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
he fell
He fell in the water.
with my crown.
With your crown.
So my boyfriend had to go get it. He was in the fishing net.
Well, it wasn't in the fishing net. He was in. Now we're actually getting into the plot.
Yeah.
This is where the confusion happened.
Yes.
Because
They saw a body in the fishing net. It
There was
turned
no
out to be a
fishing net.
different body. He saw a body
they
down
saw,
there.
but they saw them in the reeds.
In the reeds.
There was no fishing net.
Okay.
And then later,
All right.
they hear, because the whole movie starts out with this guy who's definitely not Ryan Philippe, who is definitely not Freddie Prinze Jr.
Up
and
on the cliff. Up on the cliffs.
He's definitely not Sarah Michelle Gellar or
Yeah.
Jennifer Love Hewitt.
Well, he's up on the cliffs in a place that's definitely not North Carolina either, because it's California.
It's clearly really California. Some of the movie is North Carolina, but a lot of it is California. And he's just looking sad, and then we move away from him. Then this whole thing happens, and they find out that a body was found in a fishing net, and it's this young guy, this guy that was actually who went to their high school and
Yeah.
graduated a few years before them. They're like, that's the guy.
Yeah.
That's the guy we hit. That's the guy we killed.
Yeah.
Do you want to just give away what actually happened?
They didn't. Okay. No, I think you should, because I'm worried I'm going to get it wrong. They didn't actually kill him. He had just been killed by his father-in-law, who was taking
His
revenge.
ex-soon-to-be
He was
father-in-law.
taking revenge on him because
Do you want me to do it?
his girlfriend had been killed in a drunk driving accident
okay.
the summer before
Okay.
he was driving.
So they were affianced.
yeah.
This was his fiance, and he got her killed
Yes.
in a car accident.
Right.
And he felt terrible about it.
Yes.
Which is one of the reasons he was up there on the cliff looking sad, because he was sad about killing his fiance.
Right.
Her father, his soon-to-be father-in-law,
Yeah.
had not forgiven him for this.
Took his revenge.
And took his revenge that night and killed him and dumped him in the ocean.
yes.
While walking back from doing the murder, he picked an inopportune time to cross the road, and he was hit by 4 rising stars. They found the dad. They dumped him in the water, but he did not die.
Whose face was conveniently obscured by blood to both the rising stars and
Yes.
apparently the audience.
He looked a lot like the young guy. It's really funny. So anyway, he did not die. He comes back and he's like, okay, I need to punish these kids.
Yes.
So
So I'm
am-
hook hand now.
So yeah, we've introduced Hook Hand, by the way. There's a whole thing where it's all a play on the urban legend of Hook Hand, and they're all at the beach and they're telling each other the story of Hook Hand. And I said to you, it's actually, I think it's really interesting that Kevin Williamson took this original story and like grafted Hook Hand onto it.
yeah.
And you were like, what are you talking about?
I said, are
You're-
you talking about the movie Urban Legend? And you were like, no, I swear.
I'm talking about I Know What You Did Last Summer. And I'm really glad that I was proven right, because I'm sure Hook Hand is in urban legend
Yeah.
as well.
Definitely.
And there's the thing that keeps happening where they're like, we know that the guy who's trying to kill us has a rain slicker and a hat, but they live in a fishing town
Yeah.
where everyone has that.
Yes.
But they keep treating it like it's evidence when they find someone who does.
yeah.
Like Barry is trying to convince them that Ray is actually okay. I normally hate doing this. Ryan Phillippe is trying to convince Sarah Michelle Gellar and Jennifer Love Hewitt that Freddie Prinze Jr. is the one who's killing people.
The evidence for this being that he has a rain slicker, but of course he's been working on the fishing boats for a year.
Yeah, of course he has a rain slicker.
But like it's like the movie treats it as both a joke that everyone in the town wears the same fisherman's rain slicker and
Mhm.
also like scary evidence. So it's hard to know what to understand.
Like it's just amazing that their whole finger pointing evidence is you own a raincoat.
Yeah. Can I read you some of my notes? I feel like this movie really suffered from the thing that we sometimes see where the either the writers or the set designer or the director or both are trying to write about an experience that perhaps they either didn't have or had so long ago that things are mighty different now.
Mhm.
And the strength of the movie is not powerful enough to overcome focusing on these logistical errors. Is that fair enough? Because I
Yeah.
feel like sometimes a movie's so good that it transcends these types of details. This one was not, and so I got really hung up in how the college application process works and like where actually was she, and did her friend drive her home, and did she what she just dropped her off, and she okay. At the beginning of the movie, we see sad Jennifer Love Hewitt in her dorm. Her friend is trying to convince her, or her roommate is trying to convince her to like leave for the summer. And my note was, why does this dorm look like a jail cell? And we're going to come back to this in a second. It was like cinder block walls and these awful like metal bunk beds. And I was like, did someone think this is what college looks like? Or is it supposed to be like symbolic of her inner life? Like she feels like she's in jail. So everything is really dark and cold and industrial, but she's not in jail. It didn't look like any college dorm that I've ever seen, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
To be fair,
Yeah.
it looked a little like some college dorms that I have seen.
But I guess the point is that she actually didn't go away to the good school that she got into. She went to like the bad state school instead. Like this isn't like the ivy covered walls of Yale. So she comes home and her mom is like, you got You got this mail. It's not your report card. I know that because that came last week. Okay, A of all, you don't get a report card from college. That's not, you get a transcript. You don't get a report card from college, A of all. And B of all, if you do, it's not mailed to your mom at your house like a week before you get home for summer vacation. That's not how any of this works. B, she does have, again, like with the Buffy comparison, she does have the symbolizers, the droopy bangs and the overalls of sadness. You know that she's not well because her bangs are droopy and her overalls are too.
But the red herring is that it's not Sarah Michelle Gellar. It's
Right.
Jennifer
It's
Love
Jennifer
Hewitt.
Love Hewitt. And then I got very confused because we meet Sarah Michelle Gellar's sister, who is beautiful. And I was like, wait, this is the ugly fat sister?
Just a knockout.
Yeah.
Gorgeous.
Yeah.
And like,
We got a real like Lizzie Bennett situation over here.
yeah, it's kind of weird. And she's also kind of an asshole.
Yeah, she's really mean.
But
Her glasses are supposed to be the signifier that she's the serious one.
yeah, she's just like, she's an asshole because she works so hard and Helen just gets everything handed to her because she's so pretty.
Yeah.
She
Yeah.
just needs to learn to take her glasses off. That's all you really need to
And
do.
put her hair down. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just want to swing right back to the whole thing, what I was saying about the dorm room not looking like a dorm room.
Sorry.
So later on, they go to because Barry does get shot. They go to visit Barry in the hospital.
Barry doesn't get shot. Barry gets like run over.
Oh, yeah.
He
right.
gets like plowed, like not plowed.
He gets
The
ran
car
over.
plows into him and knocks him through a
He
building.
gets injured. So they go to see Barry. A of all, they have the loudest conversation in the world about the murder that they did last summer in the hospital.
Not just in the hospital room with the door
Like
open,
in a
but like
public
walking through
space.
the hallway down past the desk.
But I turned to you and I was like, oh, this is the same building as the building that I guarantee you, this is the same building as the building that they shot the one college dorm scene in. They just need it because the walls are the same color. It's the same. It's a building that looks neither like a dorm nor a hospital. And it's just kind of green.
It's just hard to corroborate anything like this.
Yeah.
But like, I think you're 100% right.
Yes.
And I'm glad you pointed it out.
And I guess I will wrap up by saying at one point, Sarah Michelle Gellar gets a visit from Hook Hand in the night. It's very scary because we think he's hiding in the closet, and maybe he is, maybe he isn't. We don't know where he is. And it's supposed to be, she's supposed to be in the parade the next morning. Oh, horrifying, because he came in and he did the creepiest thing. You know what he did? All of her beautiful long hair has been shorn from her head.
Mhm.
So what he did was he came in and with his hook hand overnight just gave her a real cute haircut.
It's adorable.
Yeah.
It's really cute.
So just like sort of a mid-length bob, like not even chin length, like shoulder length, like still like long hair. Like you could still put that up in a ponytail, like if you wanted to go play tennis. So I guess I'll say Hook Hand, also a good hairstylist.
I mean, I think it really speaks to the theatricality of the character.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the one thing that I can't decide whether I really liked it or whether I hated it more than anything in the movie. Because, boy, this guy's plan is a little ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, this guy was a fisherman.
Yeah.
Just a fisherman. But he goes to such lengths to mess with these 4 kids.
This is a murderer that genuinely enjoys pageantry.
Yeah, like this guy was not born for the sea. That's not what he was meant
He was-
for. He was
he
meant
was
for
born-
the stage.
He was born to murder. He was like John Wilkes Booth. He was like a frustrated actor, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy to me what lengths he got. Like, this movie doesn't make sense. Like,
Yeah.
none of it makes sense. It's just full of things that don't make sense. And I'm not saying that every movie has to be perfect with no holes and everything connects absolutely perfectly. It's nice when that happens. This is just a movie. Okay, so here's an example. They kill, who's in the trunk? Is it Johnny Galecki who's in the trunk?
Oh yeah. Yeah, because he's the guy that like maybe saw them on the road that night.
Yeah.
And then he's in the trunk being eaten by crabs.
Julia's driving in her car, and she hears like a scratching, raspy kind of thing coming from the trunk. She goes back, and she opens the trunk, and she finds what I could just define as like set dressing.
Yeah.
Again, very theatrical.
Yeah.
But it's a body. I think it's Johnny Galecki's body.
It is, yeah.
And a million crabs.
Yeah.
So many crabs.
And so she freaks out, runs
Freaks
into
out.
the house. This is where she finds Helen with her hair all cut, and Barry is there comforting her.
Mhm.
And she's like, his daddy's in the trunk. Oh my God, we gotta run. We gotta go. We gotta find. And they run out. They all run out, open up the trunk. It's all gone.
Empty.
Empty.
Okay.
Empty. You and I both turned to each other and had the exact same reaction. it would smell so bad. A dead body and a trunk full of crabs.
Like, but the part of it that's just so funny to me is like, what a gamble
Yeah.
this guy has done, because he's thinking, okay, she'll see it and she'll run away, and I know that I will have exactly the amount of time it takes in full bright daylight.
and no one will come by.
No one will watch me. It's in full view of conservatively 20 houses.
Yeah, it's in the neighborhood. It's not like in
Yeah.
the middle of nowhere. She's like parked in their driveway.
But I'm going to have enough time to pull the body out and all of the crabs, and I've got to collect all the crabs.
and
'cause
no crab will
'cause
escape.
None will escape because they move. I don't know if you know that about crabs, but they shuffle. They shuffle around. Like, it would be amazing if there was just one crab crossing the street,
Yeah.
and that's how they know she's telling the truth.
And I'll spray some Febreze, and
Yeah.
it'll be fine.
It's just the job of emptying that trunk. That's
Hours
a
of work.
day.
Yeah.
that's 2 days
Yeah.
because you've got to clean it. It's like a
You gotta
multi-step process.
de-stink it. Well, that was my reaction to the car in the first place, which
Mhm.
was, oh, there's no evidence that we committed this crime. Yeah, except for the fact that your bumper's all dinged in and your trunk is full of blood and smells like a dead
A
body.
dead body.
Yeah.
It just,
Ugh.
I don't want to think about stuff like this. But
Yeah.
the movie doesn't leave us anything else to think about.
Yeah.
It only leaves these kind
Yeah.
of things.
And then we've got the other red herring, which is the sister out in Hicksville. Maybe
she's
chopping things up with big knives.
well, doesn't it? So she's the fisherman's daughter. Or no,
No.
her brother,
Her brother was
the guy they think
the
they
guy
killed.
they think they killed.
And so she knew his fiance,
Yeah.
obviously.
So they
yeah.
think maybe she's the one that's doing the murders. 'Cause
Right.
She's got knives and things.
Yeah.
And she's definitely not. She thinks he killed himself.
Yeah, she's Anne Heche. Apparently, she shot for 2 days and just needed to be scary and crazy.
Yeah. Well,
And she was.
she did a great job.
Turns out she's actually very sweet.
Yeah.
And just kind of a bumpkin.
Yeah.
Yeah, they kind of take the thing from the book where Julie goes to the funeral and doesn't tell any of them about it. Ray went to their house and like befriended her.
Yeah. And said
She
his
even-
name was like Johnny Blue.
Billy Blue.
Billy Blue.
Billy Blue. She even said like, I almost had a thing going with Billy Blue. And that's later they find out, oh, the boat he works on is the Billy Blue.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And that's how Julie figures out, oh, you're the one who went to the house. You're the murderer.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, I'm not the murderer.
She runs straight into the arms of the murderer.
Yeah, literally straight into his arms. And he says, get on my boat. She's like, a murderer is chasing me. And he says, a murderer is chasing you. Get on my
Better
murder
get on
boat.
my murder boat. And then all her friends are there, but they're dead.
Oh, yeah, no. So SMG is dead. Ryan Phillippe is dead.
Dead.
They're in ice on the boat.
Dead.
Oh, you had a lot of questions about why there's so much ice on these boats?
Because I've watched The Deadliest Catch, and they don't pack the crabs in ice, but maybe in North Carolina you have to because it's a lot warmer there than in the Alaskan waters.
Who can say? I'm going to trust that this was well researched and incredibly accurate.
Great.
I'm just deciding to trust them on that.
Tons of ice on the boat.
So then we get the big thing. It's the big fight on the boat. And so he's the hook hand. He's the fisherman with the hook. And that's how he kills Johnny Galecki and other people. He kills Sarah Michelle Gellar. It was very strange. I can't imagine what it would have been like for someone watching this when it came out. Because if you had gone to see this movie when it came out, and you really liked this new show that was on TV called Buffy the Vampire Slayer, you would have already seen the first season,
Yeah.
which was a mid-season replacement. And then that fall, you would have started season 2, and then you would have gone to see this movie, and you would have been so frustrated that she's not just punching this guy onto another planet.
Well, when he was in the process of like chasing her down and fighting and murdering her, I said to you, like, I wonder if at some point the director had to remind Sarah Michelle, like, you don't know how to fight. Like,
Yeah.
you don't kick him. Like, you can't. It's a different character.
Yeah, it's frustrating. And I'm not going to say that's the movie's fault. It's just one of the things that happens with context.
So you wanted to see her kick his butt, and
Yeah.
she was not able to do that.
I will also say I was really frustrated, and this is a thing that happens in all of these, is like that fucking pact.
Yeah.
They make this pact
can't
with each
break
other.
the pact.
We can't break the pact.
Yes,
we
you
can't do
can.
this. Like, of course you can break
What's
the
a
pact.
You can break a pact.
Like, okay, so the way the book presents it is we made this pact, we've all agreed to it, and we all are friends and we can't betray each other.
Yes.
Also, the bad thing that's happening is someone is threatening us.
Yes.
Then all of a sudden it becomes violent.
Yes.
But like it's mostly a lot of threatening. And also, one of their friends gets shot, but he says it had nothing to do with it.
Yeah, and there's like so there's some sort of plausible deniability of like maybe this has nothing to do with the thing.
Right.
So like if we break the pact and break it for nothing and it turns out it was unrelated, then we've all gotten in trouble for no reason.
Right. And we don't want to break the pact anyway because we all believe in the pact.
Yes.
The movie, the pact is all of them with the body there, and Barry is just going, pact right now. No one says anything. they never even all agree to it.
Like he literally threatens Jennifer Love Hewitt with violence. Like
Yeah.
he tries to like strangle her, which is terrifying.
Yeah. And like it sells it a little bit more
Yeah.
because now she's scared of this guy.
Yeah.
And that's why she's not going to tell anyone.
But when the murderer becomes scarier than Barry, like then what's the point of the pact?
Yeah, like the murderer is both scarier than Barry and scarier than the police,
Yeah.
I would argue.
Yes.
Because that's my big question is like, what needs to happen before they go to the police? Because terrible, deathly things are happening to lots of people. This is the point where the pact doesn't mean anything, and you just go and talk to the police.
Yeah.
But they never gave me a plausible reason why they weren't doing it.
Yes.
It was just they
these
kept
are
talking about the pact.
these are privileged youth. It's not like they have anything to fear from the police other than obviously like being accountable for their crimes, which they probably won't be anyway.
Yeah.
You know? So anyway.
Bleh. Oh, I did write down what did the cop do and what if he was good at his job. The there at one point it's when the hook hand kills Sarah Michelle Gellar. She's in the back of a police car because, of course, if the police are giving you a ride somewhere,
They put you
they
in the
put
back.
you in the back where everything locks, which might be true, but I don't know. And so our very theatrical villain has set up a trap,
A roadblock.
where he's working on his car and he's blocking the road. And so the cop is going to get out of the car and he's going to go help the guy with his engine, but then he's going to kill him with his hook. And now Helen is trapped in the car and he's going to go kill her.
Yes.
This is his whole plan. Again, such a gamble. What if this cop was good at his job?
Yeah. What if he just didn't stop? And then she kicked out the back window, and I was like, I am sure you can't do that because if you could kick out the back window of a cop car, people would do it all the time.
Yes.
Ugh.
So she dies. Ryan Phillippe dies. And then we get the big thing on the boat. And what ends up happening is there is a behanding on the boat.
A behanding.
And Freddie Prinze Jr. ends up cutting off Hook Hand's hand.
Yeah. And the hook with the hand.
Well, he's just holding the hook. He doesn't have the hook all the time. But I will say this for the spoiler, and I Still Know What You Did Last Summer. He does come back. Now he actually has a hook hand because he lost his hand. Because he lost his hand and he fell in the ocean. And then all the cops tell him, hey, it's probably fine.
Yeah.
He's probably dead.
He's probably dead.
Anyway, also, you don't know why he was attacking you?
No.
And they said, no, we have no idea, officer. And then, do you want to skip to the epilogue?
Yeah, go ahead.
So we get the last scene in the movie, and Jennifer Love Hewitt is in Boston now.
Yeah.
At the other college, and she's
the
in
good
the showers.
College, yeah.
Yep.
We know this is the good college because they have like facilities.
Yeah, and she's talking to Ray on the phone because they're back together, and she's being real sexy on the phone, real playful because a year has passed, and she's feeling a lot better. But is it a year?
Yeah, a year.
A year, and 1 year later. And she goes into the bathroom, into the showers, and someone has written on one of the showers, drawn on it. I think they probably did the thing where you have to write backwards because they were on the inside. It says, I still know. I think it just says, I still know.
Dun, dun, dun.
And then suddenly, our fisherman jumps through the glass at her, roll credits.
Yeah.
And then in the sequel,
which I did not watch.
I watched a few minutes of it. This is never acknowledged.
Yeah.
It starts with her just at school.
Yeah.
But what it turns out has been happening is she's been having these incredibly vivid dreams wherein the killer is trying to kill her.
Sure.
And they it's her and Brandy and a bunch of people, Freddie Prinze Jr. is in it again. There's a whole bunch of stuff where someone, I think this is actually a little closer to the book where there's a guy that's part of the group, but then it turns out, oh no, he's the fisherman's son. And so it's him and the fisherman, him and Hook Hand working together.
Gotcha.
And there's a big fight at the end, and the Hook Hand accidentally kills his own son, and then he dies. It's a whole thing. It's a whole thing.
Anyway.
I guess it is interesting to watch this movie without having the glasses of nostalgia on, because I never watched this movie.
Yeah.
And this movie never meant anything to me. I can understand why it would mean something to people if this is a movie you saw when you were a kid. I love lots of movies that are not very good, so I'm not ragging on people for loving it. But boy, this movie is not very good.
Yeah, I guess I would tend to agree. Fun to watch.
I had fun watching it with you, but
exactly.
not because it was good.
Right? No, that's what I'm saying. Fun to watch. Fun to have an experience watching.
As opposed to
what we're about to talk about, which was the transition that I wanted to.
I had way more fun watching the TV show than I did watching the movie.
Oh man, can we talk about this TV show, please?
I enjoyed it. I didn't like it, but I enjoyed it.
Okay.
I had fun watching it.
So what is this?
I Know What You Did Last Summer is a show that, again, I thought it was a miniseries.
8 episodes, never gonna get a second season.
Turned out I was wrong, but then I was right. So it was produced by Sony Pictures Television. It aired on Amazon. It was executive produced
Mm-hmm.
Sarah Goodman.
Yes. Did you know that the young actor
Who plays Dylan? Yep.
is her son?
Hmm
Mhm.
Yeah, Ezekiel Goodman
Yeah.
is her. Yeah, their Instagram relationship is adorable.
That's very cute.
It's not extensive, but they definitely have each posted about each other a little bit, and it's very cute.
It's very cute.
She was an executive producer on Gossip Girl
Mhm.
for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
She was also an executive producer on Preacher,
Mm-hmm.
which can I just take the opportunity to talk about Preacher? Because I don't think it's ever a thing we're going to do on this show.
Well, it is a show you made me watch several episodes of that I did not care for.
Which is fine.
Yeah.
And I made you watch it when it was good.
Yeah.
It didn't stay that way.
Mm.
I love Preacher, the comic series. It is famously very hard to ever get turned into anything. It was going to be movies, and then it was going to be an HBO series, and then it was going to be a movies, and it was a TV series. It finally got made. Seth Rogen produced it for AMC, and it ran for 4 seasons. And I was really excited about it, like a lot of fans of the comic were. And they got a lot of stuff right, but I think through 4 years of watching it that I was really just trying to convince myself that it was a good show and it was the show I always wanted. Then it finally ended, and I think I was finally honest with myself that it was not very good and was actually a pretty mediocre show that really dropped the ball and was poorly made.
Sorry.
And that is the episode on Preacher that we will never do.
Yeah,
This
there it
the
is.
short version
Yeah.
of that.
Yeah.
So she was an executive producer on that and a number of other things. So she executive produced this show. When everything is different, where do you start?
I think you start with the thing that is the same.
Okay.
Drunk teens hit someone on the road. That person died, and it's now a year later.
Which isn't even the same thing because in the movie he didn't die.
Yeah. Okay.
So let's reduce it down. Okay, so
drunk teens.
4 drunk teens in a car.
No, there's more than 4. There's 5 of them in the car.
Okay. A small group of drunk teens are in a car on a road at night.
Yep.
Hit a person.
Yes.
And
now
don't tell the police.
Don't tell the police or anyone.
And hide it.
And hide it, and it's now a year later.
So the book is...
And someone gets a message a full year later when they think they got away with everything. I know what you did last summer.
Okay, so let's just talk about escalation.
And the rest of this is just on wacky tobacco. Like, it is wild.
It goes in a lot of different directions. Some that I think are kind of successful.
Oh my god. Like it's going to take the rest of the episode just to set up like all of the characters and their relationships.
Can I do it quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So again, book. 4 teens hit a kid, they don't stop, kid dies. And his brother says, I'm going to take my revenge on them.
Yes.
Pretty straightforward. Movie is, we hit a guy, we thought it was one guy, but it turned out it was a different guy, and he didn't die, but now he's after us because we tried to hide his body and dump him in the water.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. He wants revenge. There's
a revenge element.
Like the person who is the killer, there's a clear revenge element to it. There's a pretty direct line why he is doing the things he's doing. Maybe not why he's doing it the way he's doing it, but the fact that he's doing it, you could say, is revenge.
Yeah.
In this one, here's what it feels like to me. It feels like someone had a really good idea for a show, which is I've got these 2 teen girls. They are twin sisters. One of them is a rowdy party girl, and the other one is kind of depressed and doesn't really have a lot of friends and resents the other one.
And the rowdy party girl also like super smart and good at school and has like a scholarship to go to college next year.
Well, that was because she had sex with a teacher.
Right, which was dropped in very casually.
What was do you want to talk about that for a second?
No, I just like
it's an interesting thing to drop in a show about something else.
Yeah, exactly. It was like, oh, I know how you got your A in science class with that Mr. Haskell. And she's like, yeah, I had sex with Mr. Haskell, whatever. It's like, oh my God, like not to get too dark for just a hot second, but this show has 2 different plots in which we learn that a high school student was sexually involved with a teacher at their high school. 2 different incidents.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like thrown off like that's a totally normal thing to happen. Like without giving too many details, this is a situation that happened at a school that I went to after I had been a student there, like when I was already an adult. And it was, not to say it was just like a naked photo situation. It wasn't even like there was any actual like contact between the student and the teacher. That person is in jail, and there was a suicide associated with it. Like, that is how serious this type of situation is. So to have it dropped so casually on a show that, again, it is not about that even a little, was like very upsetting and kind of, again, not to get too dark and serious, kind of made me feel psychologically unsafe with where the show was going to be taking me, because this was like episode 1. Is that
it was a lot.
is that fair to say? Like,
Mhm.
it was a lot.
So I still haven't even trying to figure out how to get back on track. Okay, so because all of this is important,
Yeah.
let me get back to what I think this show was.
Okay.
These two teens, one is really popular and smart, and the other one is really depressed and not popular. They're at this big party. They have a fight, and unbeknownst to anyone else, they switch places.
Yeah.
They don't even do it intentionally.
Yeah.
But the unpopular one goes out and gets in the other one's car, and she's just mad and sitting there. And suddenly all the popular one's friends get in the car, and they're all like, "Hey, Lennon, let's go."
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, okay, and just gets kind of caught up in the moment. Then drives with them, and while they're driving, she hits the other one,
And
And-
that one dies.
and that one dies.
And then there's some confusion in subsequent episodes about, did she die? Did she not? Maybe she wasn't dead. She was dead. She died.
Yeah,
Like
right.
that is the fact. That is what happened.
We're almost given to understand as the show goes on. It seems I can't tell if it's a reveal or if it's just something that's in her head that she's like dreaming that she actually did it on purpose.
Yes. Unclear.
Unclear. Anyway, she just goes along with it.
Yep.
And they're like, "Lennon, you killed Allison. We have to cover this up." Even
Because
though none of us
everyone hated Allison, as we
except
know.
except for Dylan,
Except
who was
for
in the car because
Dylan.
Dylan was in love with Allison,
and also John,
Allison
and
was
also
in love
Johnny
with.
kind of liked Allison. Like, he was
Well, they
pretty
were
sad
best
about it.
friends.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he was like her legit best friend, and Dylan, who they're all in the car,
Yeah.
and Dylan was in love with her, and she was famously in love with Dylan.
Right.
But
But Lennon
of
slept with
course,
Dylan at the party. It
it's a
doesn't
whole
matter.
thing.
It doesn't matter.
Dylan is the one who is the showrunner's son.
Yeah.
She's like, I want to give my kids some sex scenes.
Yeah, some sex scenes and some like crazy eyes scenes.
Yeah.
And being dragged away in handcuffs at the end.
I'm actually not going to lie. He's my favorite person on the show.
Okay,
I
fair
thought he
enough.
was fantastic.
All right.
But he was really, really good. Best part of the show. So she goes home to her dad,
Bill Heck.
who's a cool dad. Well, that sounds like it's his character's name. It's not. That's the
Says
actor's
Bill
name.
Heck.
Yep. And she tells him the truth. And he says, well,
We gotta cover this up.
we have to cover this up. You are Lennon now. I know what you did with your friends, but we won't tell anyone about it. And they think you're Lennon.
and you just go to college on her thing.
Yeah.
Allison was never gonna amount to anything.
Mhm.
So we don't have to like do anything.
You are Lennon now. And it's one of those things where I was a little glad that this was the reveal at the end of episode 1.
Yeah.
And this wasn't like something that was saved until the end of the show.
That she was like trying to keep it from her dad
Like-
the whole time. Well, not to bring it back to Buffy, but Buffy always got so much more comfortable once mom knew.
Yeah.
You know, like the plot of Buffy trying to hide it from the mom that she was the Slayer got old and uncomfortable after a while. So the fact that the mom
That's
knew
why I like season 3 more than season 2.
I was gonna say the fact that the mom knew pretty early in the season, like in the show,
Mhm.
relatively speaking, was a good thing.
That's why I think season 3 is the best one, because
There you
it's the only one where she's still in high school, but her mom knows.
And is alive.
It's just a great season.
Yeah.
It's so good. Even though Spike's only in one episode. but
Anyway,
whatever. Someone should do a podcast about Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
someone should. Yes, someone should. Someone with a much bigger listening audience than we have.
Anyway, so what I'm saying is the whole thing of like a twin taking the other one's place. Oh, and then later also in that episode, she opens her closet and there's a goat head, and someone has scrawled on the mirror in the closet. Everyone say it with me now. I know what you did last summer. And that's like the only similarity it has. Like, I'm trying to go back to the book. It like has some similarities to the movie, but like nothing in common with the book.
Other than there is someone pretending to be someone that they're not, which is in the book.
I guess so. If you kind of like close
If you
one
kinda
eye
squint,
and
yeah.
squint with the other one and look in a totally different direction,
Yeah,
it's kind
yeah.
of the same thing.
Yeah. There
So
there's
okay, so
much.
there's so much intrigue that is
much.
not worth going into.
There's the cult that is all kind of a red herring. Like the whole cult thing really is a red herring.
So there's a cult on the island.
They're in Hawaii. Did we say they were in Hawaii?
Yes,
They're in Hawaii.
We didn't say that, but the whole thing is on Hawaii. It's a very Hawaiian show.
Yeah.
So there's a cult. There's a crazy lady who was in the cult. It turns out the dad was in the cult. Lennon and Allison were always sad because their mom died by suicide when they were kids.
Yeah.
Turns out she didn't. She just left them.
Yes. And there was a mass suicide that the mom was not a part of, and the
Right.
timeline of that was very confusing to me.
Well, because you thought the suicides, you thought she died in the mass suicide,
of the cult.
which was 25 years ago.
Right, so that was confusing, but
Right.
she didn't. She just missed them.
Turns out, no, the mom didn't die by suicide. She just left the family and started a new life and had new kids. But she's also like still in the cult.
Still like very committed to the cult.
Yeah.
Maybe the only one is her and Clara, who
Well, okay. So
Oh my God.
one quick thing about the mom, Helen, played by Maggie Lacey. What was the adorable thing you found out?
Bill Heck's real life wife.
Adorable.
Yes.
Adorable.
Who maybe was just like there with him filming, and they were like, "Oh, we need someone to play the wife in one scene."
Well, she's
in
an
one
actor
episode.
in her own
No,
right.
she is an actor, but
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, he was definitely like cast. He's in the whole
Yeah.
thing. The wife is more of a
She
small
just shows
part.
up in like the second to last episode and
Yeah.
then dies in the last episode.
Yeah.
We're giving everything away. So murders start happening.
So-
Johnny is the first one
Oh
to
my God,
die.
so many murders.
Johnny and his Johnny a year later,
Yeah.
a year later, Lennon has come back to town, but we know it's really Allison, and she gets together with all her quote unquote friends, none of whom know. So it's her friend Johnny,
He's dating
who's the
Coach.
adorable gay quarterback, who is now that he has graduated, he is getting married
He's
to
affianced.
the coach
Yeah.
of their school. But the coach, someone said in in one scene in passing, you hear a person off camera say, "Oh, and he waited until he graduated before they started anything."
But we know they did. But we know they didn't. Like
Yeah.
it was very Ugh.
So Johnny was Allison's friend. He was there. Dylan is super weird kid who's like kind of
Creepy. He's
weird.
got OCD because that's
creepy.
definitely a personality trait.
Yeah, like that's just the way you write a character.
Yeah.
There's Margot, who is kind of like Helen. She's an influencer.
Yeah.
And has a ton of followers.
And rich.
And she's a millionaire. Her mom is super rich.
Mom's
and
a doctor.
Yeah, and like she's got a bodyguard.
we never
Kyle,
we never
follows
meet
her.
the dad. We don't know what the dad does.
We saw the dad in the flashbacks.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he was there in the flashbacks.
Was he at the party?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the whole, oh my God, we go back to this party
So
the
many
night,
times.
so
Oh my
many
God,
times
so
in the
much
8
happened at
episodes of
party.
this show.
Oh my God.
There is Riley, who's another friend of theirs.
Oh, and she's poor.
She's
and her mom's
poor.
the cleaner at the motel and restaurant that the twins' dad runs. Her mom's cool.
I think her mom is very cool.
Yeah.
She dies.
She dies
Horribly.
She dies. And
She-
Harold. Poor Harold.
Yeah.
Harold's the only one I feel sorry for in this whole
Harold
thing.
was like the cook in the restaurant. He gets shot in the
He's-
head.
And he's so nice.
He was real nice. We didn't know him for very long, but then he died. So the show is doing this thing where people are dying horribly. Like Johnny gets decapitated, and then
So does Coach.
Coach. So they get decapitated and killed at the same time.
Yeah.
Then one of the cops dies, and Harold dies. Then Riley's mom dies,
And then Riley dies.
and then Riley, well, quote unquote, dies. We
Yeah.
can talk about the stinger at the end in a
Ugh,
little bit.
Yeah.
Jesus. Yeah, Riley gets it really badly. Like someone unseen takes a machete and stabs it through her and then cuts her arm off.
Yeah.
And then
she
we find
drags
out in the-
herself all the way home. And
we
then
find out in the
dies.
next episode that didn't kill her. And so we see her like dragging herself back home and she dies within sight of it.
Well, I got mad because the part where she gets her hand chopped off and then starts to drag herself out is reminiscent of an actual true crime thing that happened to an actual person that survived. And then
they reference it in the show,
reference
don't
it
they?
in the show,
Yeah.
and I got mad because I was like, someone knows their true crime.
Well, this show did that multiple times to you because there's a scene earlier where I think Lennon is talking to Allison and says how you're a virgin and you don't have your driver's license, and you got really
I was
mad.
like, they're just quoting Clueless.
And then Allison says to her, "Did you just quote Clueless at me?"
Yeah, and I
And
was like,
your
"God damn
reaction
it."
was just like, "Okay, fucking fine, whatever." I don't feel good about that, but
I
at
know.
least they know.
Yeah.
I'll say a thing about this show.
Okay.
I am going to make a grand pronouncement.
Yes.
I have seen some shows that are very sexy,
Yes.
that are not particularly horny.
Yes.
You know, like there's some shows that are very, very sexy, but I wouldn't describe them as horny shows.
Yes.
I have seen some shows that I would describe as very horny that are also very sexy.
Yeah.
Okay. This is a show that is super, super horny, and I'm going to argue is never really sexy.
It's not. It's like not sexy even a little.
It's
There's
just 'cause
so
it's
much
trying
sex in it,
so
but it's trying so hard.
hard.
Like everyone's into everyone. Like Margot's into Lennon.
This show is the kid that you knew in high school who all they did was talk about all the sex they were having,
Yeah.
but everyone knew they weren't. And the thing is, they'd be fine and accepted if they were honest. But the fact that they were so sad about projecting this incredibly depraved lifestyle to everyone, that's the thing that made it cringy.
Yeah, like
That's what this show is doing.
like Lennon used to always use sex to get what she wanted, and she and Margot definitely used to bone, but like
On camera for their OnlyFans account.
OnlyFans. But Margot actually was in love with her, and Lennon may or may not just sort of have been using her for the OnlyFans channel, which she named after Allison because they're identical twins. You see.
Mhm.
None of this sounds like I Know What You Did Last Summer, just because it's not.
Yeah, the whole like, I know what you did. Like, I feel like what they did is they took the concept of people are hiding something and
Yeah.
someone knows, and they really just expanded it and said, okay, everybody did something, and everyone is scared that their secrets are going to get revealed.
Yeah.
And I could see that being the interview piece.
Yeah.
Where they say to everyone, like, well, why did you want to update this? Well, you know what? I really feel like we're in an age where with social media and everyone feels like their secrets are getting revealed all of the time. I can see someone saying that.
Yeah,
But that's not.
because social media and texting are basically a character in this.
Yeah. But I would argue that the whole point of the original story, that if there's any germ of good, fun story in this, it's because a person or a small group of people did a bad thing.
Yeah.
Like a thing worse than anyone else has done. They did something so bad that people would not understand and they might go to jail. Like, it would be really, really bad if anyone found out about it. Because this isn't like the kind of shit that people just hide from their friends.
Yeah.
You know, or hide from their employers or something like that, or you don't want to put on social media. So I feel like trying to extend that to everybody kind of takes away the thing that makes them special.
Yeah, it's true. And also, like, I think the point that you made before was correct and apt, which is at a certain point, whatever would happen to them if they told the police what happened is not as bad as what is currently happening, which
Yeah.
is that they're all getting murdered really horribly.
Mhm.
Do you know what I mean? Like, in the book, again, there's this sort of plausible deniability of like, well, it was just a threat and maybe it was just an accident. No one's actually dead. We're just getting these weird things. And maybe it doesn't have anything to do with this thing that we did last summer. In this, it's like people are being horribly murdered constantly, clearly very directly related to the thing that they did last
Like,
summer.
we're all suspicious that it is Allison and she didn't die.
Yeah,
And of
yeah.
course, Allison
Did die.
well,
Lennon died.
Lennon actually died because Allison is there going like, well, I know it's not Allison.
Yeah.
It's I can tell you all it's not Allison. How do I know? Don't ask.
I
But I
just
know
know.
that it's not Allison.
I just know. And
So-
then, okay.
Let's get to the end.
Let's get to the end.
Let's just reveal all of it.
Okay.
Let's spoil the whole thing.
All right.
Now, one thing I found out about the show before we started watching it that I'm not even going to say I thought it was interesting, I just thought it was noteworthy, was that the creators didn't tell any of the actors who the killer was until they gave them the scripts for the last episode.
Uh-huh.
Because, of course, it's someone we've seen a lot. It's not the kind of show where they're going to say, oh, and the killer is revealed as someone we've never met before, or
Yeah.
someone who, like, you met once in episode 1. That's
Yeah.
not what they're doing. It's going to be the thing, who that we have been with this entire time is the killer.
Yes.
And so they're constantly trying to make you think that it's Dylan because he's weird and he's, like, kind of into the cult a little bit.
Like a lot, like kind of a lot by the end.
Yeah. Again, I want to say I think he and Allison are the best actors in the show. So Madison Eisman as Allison and Lennon, she's pretty great.
She's pretty great, and I kept wanting to ding her and say like, "Oh, she's not good enough to carry the show and play two different characters who are identical twins." But she actually does a pretty good job, like distinguishing between when she's Allison and when she's Lennon, and when she's Allison pretending to be Lennon.
Yeah.
Like, it is actually pretty subtle, and I think she actually does pull it off.
Yeah, credit where credit's due. She's
Yeah.
great. And, like, not all the acting in the show is stellar.
Yeah.
So it really makes the people who are good stand out more.
Yeah.
I would say uniformly, well, like, okay, Madison Eisman as Allison and Lennon is great. I think Ezekiel Goodman as Dylan is great. I think Ashley Moore as Riley, I loved
She's
her.
pretty good.
She was really, really good. Brienne Chu as Margot, I didn't love. Okay, so Margot's the killer.
Yeah.
Now you don't need to watch the show.
Yeah.
Margot's the killer.
To be fair, her character doesn't have a lot of depth.
Well, so this gets to the thing I want to. Okay, I want to talk about this again. So I read that they didn't tell any of the actors who the killer was.
Yes.
And the problem with that is
it doesn't allow you, if you're the murderer, to have a subtle performance leading up to the point where your murder is revealed, because you don't know that you're the murderer. But your character would know that you're the murderer. So ideally you, the actor, would be able to subtly convey something without giving everything away.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So let me describe the last episode. Not in detail.
Not in detail. Please don't.
Everyone's back at where the cult used to live, and what we are left with is Margot has just stuck a knife in Allison's gut because she knew immediately that she was Allison.
When she said, like, when you went away to school, I knew it wasn't you, Lennon, from your social media because you did a bad job with your posting.
I always knew that it wasn't you. She's also now acting completely different.
Yeah.
She's a totally different person at this point.
Yes.
She's very, like, calm and collected, and I am a murderer and I kill people, and this is what I do. And then Dylan comes in and he's trying to save her, and then Margot comes up with a gun. He wrestles the gun away from her, and he gets her at gunpoint, and that's when the chief of police shows up,
Who's
Lila,
boning Allison's dad?
publicly, like a lot. Like she's they are the horniest thing on this entire show.
Yeah.
They're the ones who are just saying like, oh, I thought it's like, hey, do you want to meet later for coffee? Like, oh, I don't really want any coffee. No, it was code for fucking.
Yeah.
Like no one. That's
We don't
not a
do
real
that.
conversation.
Yeah.
So she shows up, and we as an audience have this moment where we're like, wait, what is going? I feel like there were lots of moments where I saw Margot by herself acting shocked at the murders. Why would she have done that if she also, why did this happen? And how could she have been responsible for this person's death?
Yeah.
But you're not thinking about all of that because now what they're doing is they're trying to get you to focus on what is Allison going to do? Because the cop comes in, and Dylan, who they already suspected, he's got the gun.
'Cause he's been acting weird.
Yeah.
And he's got a gun now.
Also, Margot put his DNA on the knife,
Yeah.
which I don't want to talk about where she got the DNA
Yeah.
from.
I don't want to talk about it.
His mom wrote this show.
Yeah.
And Allison has this moment to say what's actually happening, and Dylan is saying to her, tell her what's going on, tell her that it was Margot, and she goes, Dylan is the one who stabbed me. He's the killer.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of revealed that she loves Margot.
And Margot definitely loves her.
Well, Margot loved Lennon.
Yeah. But maybe now also?
Maybe loves Allison, but
we don't know.
it's a lot of stuff is told to us in that last episode and presented to us to try to make us think a certain thing. Bottom line, like, I didn't buy any of it.
Yeah.
Because I feel like in something like this, you kind of need to. You don't get points. You don't get points just for withholding information the entire time and kind of making a bunch of shit up. Do you want to describe? Because I'm just so tired. Do you want to describe what happens during the credits of the last episode?
It kind of reminded me of your Lizzie Bennett diaries or your Emma Approved.
Yeah.
Which is that Margot is doing her. Well, it's not even a vlog because that's like old school. I think it's her TikTok story or her like Insta reel.
Well, it's clearly not to anybody other than Allison.
It's just a little thing that's like, hey, maybe you're confused about how I did all this, so I'm just gonna kind of explain it as I look at the camera, and it's like, oh, dude, like
she literally just explains how
just
every
explains
single
how
death
everything happened, like how Kyle the bodyguard helped with some things, and her mom helped with some things, and it explains logistically, I guess, how everything happened, but it doesn't explain anything.
It doesn't explain why I'm supposed to care, and it certainly doesn't explain why it's good.
Yeah.
Like, she felt like you were talking to someone about a show that wasn't good, and you're saying, I didn't like it because this wasn't good, and they're going like, no, you just didn't get it. And then they try to give you all of their logical reasons for why. Like, okay, this is the one that gets me. When Johnny dies, he is the first one to die. He gets decapitated, and video of the decapitation is sent to all of the friends.
Yeah.
We see all of them privately seeing the video and reacting.
Yeah.
We see Margot's reaction to it in her house by herself. And her reaction is that she's horrified by it.
Yeah. But she was the one that killed him and sent the video.
So, like, I'm not saying you couldn't come up with some kind of reason why she had that reaction at that time, but the show's certainly not doing anything to explain it.
Yeah.
And so all I'm thinking in that last episode is, yeah, I get that you're telling me that Margot's the killer, and Margot is telling me that she's the killer, but, like, I did watch the show. I watched all the episodes before this one.
Yeah.
So I don't believe you.
Yeah.
Like, I don't believe you. Show, you're telling me she's the killer, but, like, I don't buy it. And that's a problem.
Yeah.
And I think that's maybe part of why it didn't get picked up for a second season.
Yeah.
So Dylan goes to jail, and it's a fucking bummer.
It's a bummer. So, okay. Okay. Long story short, it has very little to do with the 1997 movie. And even less to do, I would argue, with the 1973 book. I Know What You Did Last Summer, besides sharing a title. So I just don't even want to go, like, if you're into like a 8-episode weird murder arc show, like, definitely watch it. Like, I don't want to give away every little detail because you might enjoy it. I didn't.
Oh, there's a million things we didn't talk about.
Yeah, like
and like honestly, there are some good things in the show. Like one thing we didn't talk about is like it's got some comedy in it. And
yeah.
there are some characters who are kind of funny.
There's some funny characters, like the police chief's like second. The other two police officers are actually both pretty funny.
Yeah, like but like
it
you
doesn't
say,
matter.
we don't even have to
There's
go into
also
it.
some confusing stuff, like the Viking funeral that we didn't understand.
Okay.
But like it doesn't matter.
There's a lot going on in this show, and it's very clear that they left a lot of threads untied,
Sewn up
and sewn up
for season 2.
They wanted there to be a season 2, and there is no season
and
2.
I'm sorry for all of their sakes, as you said, but there is no season
Yeah.
2.
But like the show ends. Obviously, it ends with Margot explaining to you how she did everything, which is deeply unsatisfying.
Yeah.
But before that, we get Allison's voiceover saying, like, I know everyone thinks they know what they would do in this situation, but you don't know because you've never been in that situation, which is a really convenient way of saying, no, you think that the character's actions didn't make sense given what you know about them, but actually it does because you wouldn't know, would you? You don't know because you've never been in that situation.
I've never
How
been
would
in
you
that
know?
situation.
How would you know? How would you know what she would do? Like I feel like I'm being talked down to at this point. I don't like this show.
Let's wrap it up.
2 things we need to do really quickly. We are going to get to quadrants. I do want to spend a minute talking about 3 weeks later.
Go ahead.
The show does the most amazing thing.
Oh God.
It's the fake out. It's between the 6th and the 7th episode because the person everyone thinks is the killer, Clara, this cult lady, she's dead, and everyone thinks everything's good, and Margot gets shipped off for therapy for an intense 3-week therapy session. And then she comes back and there's like a festival and so many people have died and this tiny town has moved on so quickly.
Everyone's so happy. Like our lives are perfect
like,
now.
But again, there was a big title on screen that said 3 weeks later.
3 weeks.
A comically small amount of time to have passed. Like, even if it was a year, I would think.
A year later.
Yeah.
Why not just make it a year later? There's
3
no reason.
weeks.
You don't have to change anything. Just make it a year later. It's so stupid.
I loved it. It was so dumb.
Okay.
Quadrants.
Yes.
1997 movie. Do you think they cared about the source material?
No.
No. Was it successful? Also no.
Also no.
It depends on what you're looking
I
for.
guess.
Like,
if you're looking for like a 90s teen slasher film, like you couldn't get better than this.
I guess if you want to see Jennifer Love Hewitt and Sarah Michelle Gellar and Ryan Phillippe and Freddie Prinze Jr. in a movie where this is someone
murderer.
murdering people, like I guess
this
it
is the one to watch.
You know what? I guess it is incredibly successful.
Yeah,
It does
for
really fire
those-
on all cylinders.
Yeah, for those parameters.
2021. Do you think they cared about the source material?
No,
being the
not
book?
even. No, fuck no.
I'm still convinced that this was a show about a twin taking the other one's identity, and they thought, "Oh, wait a second! I know what you did last
Oh my
summer.
God.
Let's graft that onto it." Was it successful?
No.
No.
It was not.
I'm not saying don't watch it.
I'm saying don't watch it.
I know you are. I'm not. But I think it's not successful.
Sorry to be a bummer.
Stop apologizing to everybody. This has been Adapter Parish. If you'd like to find us online, we're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at AdaptCast. You can join our groups on Facebook and Goodreads, and you can also find and follow me on Letterboxd. You can also listen to Multiplex Time Machine, which is my new podcast that I just started that Ari here is not a part of. I'm very excited about it. I am burning the candle at both ends a bit. If you have anything to say that's longer than a tweet, you can always send an email to adapterparishcast@gmail.com. If you'd like to support the show, there are 3 great ways you can do it. First, tell a friend. Second, a rating and review on your podcast platform of choice would be greatly appreciated. Third, we are on Patreon. This show will always be free, but if you become a patron, you can get access to Adapter Parish Plus, our bonus show that releases every other week between episodes of this show, and our patron-only Slack community. It's been a lot of fun, and all the details are at patreon.com/adaptcast.
Nobody loves me either, bitch.
That
was Margot's final line.
Is that Margot's final line?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
It's awful.
I know you hated it.
It's not good.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.